Hello everybody, welcome to the end of week 9, the start of week 10. And today we're going to be looking at the case plans for our clients. This week, the end of week 10, all the students have deliverable assessment for assessment 2A, B and C, which is the assessment report, which is the report of your interview assessments with the clients, and the case plans and the referral forms for our students. And we'll work through these very quickly. Last Wednesday, we talked about the assessment forms, and that is available on a video in the video links for the recorded Zoom sessions. Have a look for the calendar on the site page. And today we're going to look at case plans. So let's do that. We're here with Sonia, who's going to talk us through case plans. How are you, Sonia?
Thank you.
We're hoping some more people might show as well. Otherwise, it's going to be all Sonia. So we've got Aaron. Have you done your case plans yet, Sonia?
Yeah, I have. Yeah, I just want to ask some questions, but you go ahead and see what you.
No, we're here to help people, and I'm glad you've got questions because that's what's going to drive other people's knowledge as well. So this case plan is a little bit different to the one that you've got to fill in the assessment templates, in terms of it has the person listed, and that's quite important. So the document that you've got, it's a little bit basic. Case plans can be fairly dynamic, but we don't need to kind of range off on that at the moment. Let's have a look at Sonia's questions. Welcome, Carly.
Hey.
Hi. Sorry I'm late.
No problem. Sonia's about to ask a question. We're recording, just so you're aware. And Sonia's about to ask a question, yeah.
Just a simple format question, really.
Okay.
With regard to the case plans, you've got, you know, participants 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Are we supposed to use that like one?
No.
Has to. No?
Well, look, what's happened in the assessment that you did, it sort of shifted somewhat from the original envisagement of how this process is meant to occur. It's kind of envisaged to be a follow-up but there are no participants, are there? So the case plan is meant to be developed in the assessment scenario, which is not necessarily very authentic. So I wouldn't worry about that. Don't worry about filling that in. That's more of an explanation on my part about why that exists. It's a hangover from something that is meant to go on that doesn't really go on because it doesn't really fit very well. It doesn't make a lot of sense. The process that we've done is clear. There's an assessment, and as a case worker, we would normally develop our own case plans as a case manager. We wouldn't go and involve normally people to develop a case plan. That's not a usual process that well, maybe if it's a highly complex case. For example, if you're in child protection, perhaps that is the case, especially if you've got a lot of special needs going on. And there's the heavy involvement of services that you're inheriting. But if you are just referred a client, as we have been with these clients, these are either referrals or walk-ins, where is the team and where in the assessments are the team? They don't really exist. So normally you develop a case plan on your own as you're doing for the assessment. So don't worry about the participant list.
Oh, so we can delete it, can we?
Don't delete it, just leave it there. Just don't worry about it. If you want to add something, you can add down, you know, mental health. Let's have a look at Aaron. We've got a mental health thing. We've got an AOD. So you could put mental health. You could get AOD counsellor involved. You could get a counsellor, family counsellor involved. We could have Aaron. We'd want Aaron. We'd want his parents involved if you wanted to involve them. But again, Aaron is 19. And as an adult, you don't have somebody's parents come in and sit in on their case plan. That's not appropriate. The client is actually meant to be treated as an adult as well if they're over 18, unless they had a learning difficulty of some sort or a really significant disability, a mental health problem that was really evident, then you might go, well, we'd want a responsible adult in the room, even though the person's over the age of 18. The guy's over the age of 18. And so you say, you're responsible, mate. And even with these complex issues we're looking at, you still say you're 18, my friend. This is how it goes. So my advice is parents not listed in the case planning meeting. It wouldn't normally happen, but a case planning meeting like this does sometimes occur with complex cases later on in the case plan. So after during a case review process. So every case will have a case review, and whether there is a collective meeting or a one-on-one meeting, every case plan needs to be reviewed at the very least every 3 months. You would expect, as a caseworker, I look at my case plan every week. I go through my caseload, and there are staff, I know of agencies that do it by monthly meetings. They will have a caseload meeting where the case management team get together, and everyone has their client list, and they go through their client list, and they talk about where their client list is in their case plans. So they might say, you know, we're on 1 month into a working with Aaron. We go, how's Aaron? Well, Aaron's had his mental health assessment, and he's been diagnosed with depression, and he's still working with an AOD counsellor who isn't confident that Aaron has told him everything that he needs to know. So we still think there might be some residual issues around AOD, whether it's alcohol or, you know, maybe it's ecstasy or something. It's probably not anything serious like crack or heroin, but we still think there might be some use of something. In terms of his aggression, he's been attending the counselling service, and then so you have this updated discussion with people, and then the end point being, you say to your colleagues and your team leader, when are we going to get rid of Aaron? We're a busy service. We have a short support period. At what point will we be exiting Aaron from our service? Aaron needs to be gone at some point. When are we going to say that Aaron can cope and manage his responsibilities in terms of keeping up counselling, working, and maybe he might be on a medication regime for his mental health problems? When is he going to be able to deal with that all on his own? And then we say, well, I think I'll be maybe working with Aaron for another couple of weeks, at which point I will make sure that his family know where to contact us, and he can get back in touch with us. And we'll have a meeting with Aaron before then to say, you've done well, this is where you're at, you've done that, you need that. This is where we got to, this is what you still need to get over. And we might go out for a coffee with Aaron and say, great, you've done a great job, my friend. And go on that strength-based thing, go, look at how, when you came in, look at where you were, and look at where you are now. And, you know, you've been and had a look at some education and all that sort of thing, and you started down that road of being fully independent and achieving some of the goals. So you see how we made a plan, Aaron, and how we got through. We used a case plan, and we worked through the strategies in the case plan, and we achieved the goals. So you had this case closure meeting, and so you'll say to your staff, this is we're going to hopefully close down Aaron in a couple of weeks, and unless something turns up, maybe Aaron has a breakdown of some sort. And that is when you have this meeting. That is why those case review participants are there. It's a good question, Sonia, and it sounds like I'm kind of going on a bit, but I'm sort of filling in a bit for some information that's perhaps not evident so far. week 11, there's some of this information is listed under the case closure information in this course.
Okay, just looking at your plan here, you've got Aaron, down for AOD. I didn't think that was an issue. But
See, it says explore.
Okay.
Oh, we don't know, do we? Why is that? Aaron, if I was being thorough and I had Aaron as a client, I'd want to know. I could ask him and I might still say, I don't believe him. If you don't believe someone, if you don't believe he's disclosed, and he may not disclose everything with you. Imagine this, that you're not going to be 100% to everybody.
No.
So imagine that you draw on the resources you've got and say, well, I don't believe him. I don't believe that he's experienced these problems and it's happened like this, it's unfolded, his story doesn't make sense to me. And that's, in my head, that's what I go on. Does the story make sense? And once the story is told a few times, and you question Aaron and you provide Aaron with opportunities to explain how he feels about things, and you understand that, wait a minute, that doesn't ring true. He will be, more or less honest about, have you ever had any experience with drugs or alcohol, Aaron? No, I've never touched anything. How rare would that be for any young person in Australia? That would be pretty rare, right?
Yeah.
So if that's what they said, that would make me suspicious. And I would go, okay, well, if I would tickle that little bone a little bit and go, all right, so you're averse to drugs and alcohol? Or yes, I don't really involve myself with it. Okay, so your friends, do they smoke a bit of weed now and again? Or what about, you ever had a drink? No, I've never had a drink. You go, really? Never had a drink? Who's this person who's never had any involvement with drugs going through an Australian schooling system? It's never happened. And there may be feeling that way, the way that Aaron feels, but the idea that he's not willing to unload about that. No, I don't like drugs, I'm a Christian. Or, no, a friend of mine died taking drugs, so I'm very adverse to the whole thing. They're reasonable explanations, but just saying nothing doesn't make any sense to me. So I would be suspicious about that. And then if I'm not satisfied, always refer somewhere else. Have to refer somewhere else. And on your case plan, you can just put down things you don't know. Explore alternative housing options. Explore friendships. You're not going to capture everything in your assessment. Remember that. The assessment process, it will be a if you're lucky, 2-hour sit down discussion, and you're not going to get everything you need to know about that person in that time. You're going to want to pull out things and explore serious risk issues, and then a later time you want to go and try and understand other things and get to know Aaron very well, if you can, build rapport in order to best help him with a case plan that suits his needs and is empowering him by asking him to make choices in ways that he wants to. So, explore, Sonia, definitely do that. Anything you don't know, anything about any client, and maybe make a code for yourself, kind of codify these case plans so that they use respectful language. So you don't say, I don't believe Aaron. You just go explore further feelings about AOD issues, maybe. If he says, I've never touched drugs. And likewise, what is Aaron's sexuality? Think about that. That might be a big cause of his problem. What, were you going to say something, Carly?
Oops, sorry. No, but we have discussed that, and it's a possibility that that's got something to do with the way he clashes with his father too.
Yes. and the isolation. So that might be on the case plan. Now, let me tell you something else. If you don't have all these down on your case plan, you won't fail. That's not going to be the point. The point is that you've understood how to use the case plan. You've represented some serious suspicions you have, especially the risk ones. The serious risk ones are really important. The short term, is Aaron in danger of harming himself? So that's a serious risk. So if that's the case, then I would be going, okay, I definitely want to have a mental health assessment and I want it today. And you might even write under there in a codified way as well, you know, risk of self-harm. You might want to ROSH or something. Or SH, underline SH, SH, SH. So that it doesn't become obvious to him that you're underlining self-harm, 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 but it highlights to you and other people. And it's be a little bit careful about the coding. Be careful about using words that are, they have to be sort of neutral, they have to be clear, and they have to be non-loaded, you know. So you don't want to write interrogate Aaron over AOD issues, because that's very loaded. And you don't want to write passive terms like think about AOD issues, because that's not very clear either. And you don't, if you write things like AOD issues, just AOD issues, that's evident that that's there. Now, if we remember, this is a legal document. And if something happened to, let's say you took Aaron on board and Aaron killed himself because he used drugs, and you hadn't identified that and you'd done an assessment with him, and so the court pulls in the document and says, here's your document. He was your client. He had, Sonia, sorry, you walked off a little bit there, but we're talking about if this document goes to court, right?
I could hear you down the hall.
Oh, good, okay. Good. So if he's gone to court and this document's pulled up and you don't have, if you write explore AOD, that's gold, because that's leading people to say you've got a suspicion of that, you're not qualified to deal with that. It's a process that you're following, and that you have not highlighted that as a massive risk because there's no evidence for that. But you look like you've done your job thoroughly. If there's nothing about AOD and he's gone and killed himself, then your boss might look at you and go, that's a pretty bad thing to not deal with. You've not recognized he's got AOD issues. And especially if he kind of like was to kill himself from something like chroming or something. Chroming is very obvious. Chroming is a loss of cognitive ability, which is very significant. And to kind of miss that, you might really want to go, it could be diagnosed as something else, but or use of ice, people scratching, people having being extremely aggressive and seriously up, and to present in ways that can be very obvious to experienced and trained AOD workers. Some of these things, if you missed them, people just go, how did you miss this? This is a very significant thing. So these are experiential things that you need to pick up on the way to identify the signs of people using. And there are various ones. This is a court document, so we need to be very careful about the language we use. We need to recognize that we're using it for ourselves and for other people. So I've listed a risk problem here, mental health, something which can also be a complex diagnosis, which can increase the concept of comorbidity, that this would make it even more difficult to help Aaron work through his problems. The presenting issues that he came in with his family, counselling to help address his housing situation. long-term goal setting, in terms of a social life as well. Now, we don't have social in here, and that is something that needs to be, we don't have it in here because in the assessment, it never came out enough. You know, we've got personal and relationships down there. We identified that Aaron didn't have any significant personal relationships. In the case plan, you would want to build some strategies in there. But again, the case plan is not a cut and dried, signed and sealed, dated document. It's a developing, living document that changes and adapts as you meet with it. So you say to Aaron, so have you been leaving the house much? No, I've not been leaving the house much. Why not? Well, I don't have any friends. Oh, and then so you might think about, wait a minute, what's his interests? Can we find something into that might happen a little bit later on in the case planning process, after you've had some interaction with Aaron. So don't worry about that. It doesn't all have to be there. It just has to be kind of representative of the key issues and goals that we identified through the assessment form. And this should be an extension of that assessment form. So once again, for the people in the audience, let me point this out. We've got Aaron's assessment form here. And if we go to the end and we look at the end of that form, if you use this form, you may not have, we identified some goals for Aaron. And these are the goals that are represented in the case plan. Oh, sorry. The case plan is there. So these goals, mental health goals, are the same as these case plan goals here. And so they lead on. One leads to the other. And the case plan provides a strategy. The action is the individual actions. You can see here, got separate actions to help Aaron to address problems. So you might need multiple actions. So let's say Aaron doesn't have an income, for example. We didn't put that in. That could be in. And there's a range of things you can put into this. All I've done is show you a model. It doesn't have to be exactly this, by the way. Let me just explain. This is an outline of some of the key issues in the assessments that we've seen. And it's by no means the definitive, you have to have these issues. It has to look like that. It must read exactly that. It must use this. Case plans can't be that firm. They have to be kind of flexible for each client, and workers will identify and have different strengths. We should hope, we want to aim towards serious risk being addressed, identified and linked and addressed. And the other things which are very important, dealing with family, dealing with relationships, dealing with income, dealing with education, life goals. And if we think back to the hierarchy of needs, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, we want to sort of point Aaron towards the top end of that triangle. But we're not really paid to support him to get to self-actualization. His Buddhist-like enlightenment is not our aim. Any questions?
Not about that, no.
Let's go with Kylie. Let's have a look at Kylie. So, Kylie, imminent risk. So, see, I've changed the language there. That language, it doesn't have to be set in gold. Kylie, ASAP. Warn Kylie about the risks of her drinking and taking sleeping tablets. Serious, significant risk. Kylie must be warned. Short term, and so have we gone from Aaron, again, short term, 1 week from today, short term, today, short term. But with Kylie, we see short term is today. So we identify significant risks, and we're looking at timelines, and the flexibility needs to be built in as well. As long as you'd be really specific You can say by 8 a.m. today.
Can you also put down in the action, call the actual name of the service? Like,
Absolutely. Oh, you really should. You really should do that. So thanks for saying this, Sonia, because why not? Because here's the thing, while you're writing this, it's much easier if you put all, I'm really glad you mentioned this because I didn't put this in. It's meant to be a basic pro forma, but that's a really good tip for people. When you're going through your case plan as a worker and you're sitting at your desk and it's Tuesday morning, you've got assessments coming up in another hour or two, but you're just zipping through the case plan, you go, oh, where is he at with the psych service? Now, if you're going through the case plan, this is you think of it as again, it's a tool. So it's a to-do list. So you're reviewing the case plan and you go, I'm going to call him. I'm calling him now, bang, psych. And you've got this name, the contact details. You don't necessarily need an address down there because you might do if you are physically taking him there or you're going to give him the information. You might want to put that address down, especially because when you walk into your case review meeting with him or your weekly case meeting, you sit down and he goes, oh, I lost the address for the psych service. Oh, here it is. It's in the case plan. Here, I'll give you here's a bit of note paper. Bang, here's a post-it note. Here's the address. Take that with you. So yeah, Sonia, very good. Put those details down in there. But you're not assessed on that in this assessment. Let me make that clear. So we've got short-term, long-term mental health. We are aware that Kylie is at risk. We do want her to get an assessment appointment today. We don't have any information that Kylie has suicide ideation. We just have information that she has said that she's feeling very depressed and she's got lots of anxiety and things like that. So we want to link her in as soon as possible. So the case plan keeps the timeline that is reflective of the information that you've been given, and that if you read the case plan, it sort of becomes evident what the level of importance is. So if we look at the difference between ASAP, Kylie needs to be warned about substance abuse, and short term, Kylie needs to be linked in with the social support, with the psych support agency. We know there's a difference between those two, and the difference being you've not been given anything to worry about. And so here we've got the word risks under the actions for Kylie. Risks exists for ASAP, lethal risks. Here, you might want to write down suicide ideation, SH, self-harm. But again, SH, I might use that. That's a bit lazy on my part, because if somebody else has to pick up your case plan, they might not know what SH means. So SH, and there's a difference between self-harm and suicide ideation as well. Self-harm could be cutting, and it's not necessarily a lethal thing, but even any idea of self-harm, and also suicide ideation and self-harm to some extent, you would want to list mandatory reporting in there and use the words mandatory reporting. So is that clear? Because remember, we're writing this plan for other people, not just for you. It's not just your notes. And just to remind everybody as well, this is not your information, is it? So let's talk about that. This is Kylie's information. So we treat it with kid gloves, and we ask Kylie to understand that we are writing the language down like mandatory reporting. That's what we have to do. But we have to be very careful and neutral in the language we're using so that we're not abusive and disrespectful, because Kylie can access this at any time. And she should be actually working with you to write this case plan. You're putting this together. You're putting this case plan, you're developing the case plan with Kylie at the same time, with all your clients, to demonstrate empowerment. And I would, here, look at this. Short term, you said you were going to go to that service. Why have you not been? Sometimes you've got to be a little bit paternalistic about how you approach that in some cases. With the people who are a little bit incalcitrant in their activity. Okay, so we've got AOD counselling, which may be required. That might not be required. And that's why we're talking to Kylie in about a week. Couples counselling to get some support. And then we've got the reasons down here. It's not just the strategy. We've listed the reasons why we're sending people to places, why we're following a strategy. It justifies the strategy so other workers can come in and pick that up and go, yeah, I understand now. You assessed that, Kylie. And that tells the other workers something about the relationship. We didn't talk about, did we talk about genograms, Sonia?
We've talked about it, not with you though. I've talked about it before, but another.
Well, because see, that's the point. We haven't included genograms in this course. I thought not. And genograms are quite important in terms of offering a diagrammatic code of relationships between clients and people around them in their life. And we haven't talked about that. So as that's not part of these case plans, and as they're not, genograms aren't set in stone. Some people don't believe in them. Some people don't use them. But genograms can be useful to help other workers who are picking up and to help you map all the relationships. But there are some issues around privacy and genograms and things like that. But to try and keep track of complex cases, genograms might be used, they might not be used. So using a husband to be more supportive, counselling to enable husband to be more supportive can be as effective as a genogram, because you're showing that the husband is supportive, it's helping him link in, and he's demonstrating his interest in working with his wife to help her recover. So you want to kind of work on that. And where are we? Just because I've got to knock off in a bit. Might have to knock off in about 5 minutes. So we'll skim through this. Sexual abuse counselling, parent support group. So there's some bells and whistles on there to add some support agencies for Kylie. So we're going to link agencies. So we're trying to remind people in your case plans, think about the social aspects of our clients, all of our clients, and think about how if they're isolated at home, people like Kylie, who's a mother, she's not working. We don't know what her friendship support network is, but parenting support groups might help her to feel a little stronger and call people and develop friendships and build networks to help her get through life. And long-term stuff, this 1 month long-term, one thing you don't want to do is you want to tell Kylie, we're going to structure this, especially if she's suffering anxiety. You don't want to load her up straight away with a case plan that does everything. This case plan, today we'll do this, tomorrow you'll do that, and tomorrow you'll do that and that as well. Maybe I would be working on at least no more than 1 appointment a day. And I'd be spacing this with Kylie. I'd be giving her a couple of days off to think about things if she's doing counselling and if Kylie, sorry.
Okay. I was saying education, and wouldn't you do that long term? That's something to think about later on.
Well, yes, it could. Might be long term, and it might be medium term, because you might want to link her in with, say, for example, Centrelink might have a training scheme that you can link her in with, or something like that. Or if it's you, I'm saying, yeah. One thing is unclear about this, Sonia, about this whole process is how long as brokerage case managers are we meant to be supporting people for? So Kylie might not do education again for a year. She might not do anything for a year. But when it says review in 1 month, that might mean that you raise the topic in a case management meeting and say, oh, so Kylie, we still recognize that you're going to do some education and training. How do you feel about that now? She might go, oh, I don't want to do childcare anymore. Now I'm going to be a vet. And you go, oh, that tells you something. The client's not firmly fixed on something. And that it depends on how Larry those choices are, that you go, oh yeah. So that'll tell you something about the client. Also, you kind of go, you kind of using that as that carrot approach. So we're still putting that light at the end of the tunnel for Kylie, because the counselling will be a long-term process. So we're reviewing it in a month just to mention it in the meeting, just to shine the light and go, we're heading towards the light, keep walking towards the light. There is a light at the end of the tunnel. You're doing very well. And it's this support and strength-based practice. Look how well you've gone so far. You've been attending, and maybe, and how do you feel? Do you want to do this now? Is that too much? You know, at the moment, you've got counseling 3 days a week. You've got, you're still taking this medication, which you're saying is slowing you down a lot. So we don't need to do that now, Kylie. Let's leave it. We'll talk about it next month. Let's put that down. We'll pick it up again next month. That's how I would definitely be structuring the case plan very carefully, very gently with clients like Kylie, who is probably, out of our 3 clients, I see Kylie as the most desperate. She walks in the door looking like the most with it, but I am worried that Kylie actually has, and she seems like she might have the least important issues, but I'm suggesting that she might have the most significant problems of all of our clients. I think Maria will probably end up being the most resilient of our clients. Personally, people with domestic violence, they often, you know, make do and mend. Long-term domestic violence victims are very resilient people. That doesn't mean they're not to be supported, very well supported, but you kind of go, yeah, these people have done it tough. They know how to pick themselves up and move forward. So often, sometimes they fall down and they fall apart and they go, I need everything. I need help over everything. And, you know, that can happen too. But long-term domestic violence victims are not, the word victims sometimes inappropriate, you know. I don't like that word victims for long-term domestic violence, because they're copers. They put up with it for a long time, and then they eventually snap, you hope. Anyway, moving on, Maria. So let's go to Maria. So for Maria, different strategies, confirm emotional supports for Maria, and some medical issues, make sure she's linked in. For medical issues, check for ongoing risk of DV. And again, that might be a legal issue, protection orders. Does Maria want to go down that route? She knows her husband better than anyone else. Again, so we've got, as soon as possible, we can have multiple issues on one day. The emergencies, whatever they come in. Medical issues are not as important for Maria because she's been referred from the community nurse. She's been to the hospital. The domestic violence occurred a few days ago. If the domestic violence had just occurred, that would be my #1 priority. If she walked in having been a victim today without medical attention, that needs to be seen first. We're going to ask her about her income, discuss legal separation of properties and bank accounts and things like that. These are practicalities. So there's the practicalities you need to think about for a person's living situation, how they're going to deal with things. If the parent walks in with children, how are you going to sort out their children? Maria's obviously not, but the children become an extra encumbrance that complicate matters and require specific support needs and support arrangements. So you can't just send somebody, for example. So Maria could be at least safe being put in a private rooming house for the night. It wouldn't be a great deal. I wouldn't love it. I would think it'd be a fairly bad option, but if that's all I had, if she walks in the door at 4:30 in the afternoon and I'm leaving at 5, and you know, all the beds have gone, all the domestic violence situations have all gone, she might be funded into a hotel for the night to come back the next day if she's very desperate. But then again, if she was on my radar, I'd, at the very least, if she wanted to be out of that house, I'd put her in a rooming house, which would be, no, I wouldn't. I'd spend the money on a hotel, actually. I'd spend the money on a nice hotel. The rooming house would be exposure to more desperate people, which she doesn't need. So see how I make decisions? I kind of make decisions like this. I think about the client, think about the needs, think, how are we going to make that decision? Okay. What else do we need? Counselling, long-term counselling, linkages with the local church or another church, because that's where she gets her support through religion and social opportunities, and maybe work. You know, have you heard of the Grey Army?
Yeah.
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 No. Sonia, what are the Grey Army?
We had a guy around that came and fixed our door. So he's a retired sort of builder or handyman. So they do lots of different things, I believe, in different areas. So he still gets paid.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's an employment agency for old people who've retired.
Yeah.
Well. And they're still very skilled, and they're still very active. And you know, there was a guy I read there was a professor of something. He just retired at the age of 105 in Japan. Oh. He just retired, and he said, "Whatever you do, my tip for longevity: don't retire."
Yes, I agree with that.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, anyway, this guy, he came and fixed our door. He's probably about pushing 70, I guess. You know, still really physically fit and everything. He's never been busy in his whole life.
I've seen this.
Than he had when he was, you know, younger and, you know, working for someone else. So
his name wasn't Pete Brand, was it? I knew this. I knew this old Dutchman. He was around in the 50s building houses, right? And he was a giant of a guy. And I used to work with him in a community service. And he was 70, right? And I'm not lying about this. He would go and pick up people's fridges and carry them out to his ute on his shoulder. Right? And yeah, I just go, mate, you're nearly 70. And the guy was like and he just kept, and he was fully employed. I was like, he wasn't in the Grey Army. He was actually working for this community service as their go-to guy. I love that. Anyway, yeah, Grey Army. So you never know. Maria might still be. She could be a home health worker for somebody. Who knows? I think she's in her late 60s. So that doesn't mean she's at the end of her term. And she might feel. You think about this. A working mother, especially those Italian working mothers, they work really hard. They have a strong work ethic. So she might feel, rather than being underemployed, being employed might give her a real reason to get out of bed in the morning, a real purpose in life, raison d'etre, you know? So, yeah. Anyway, so we're done. I'm shut up. We're going on 20 minutes over. I've got to run. Nice work, everybody. We've done this to death. If you do something like this, even if you only get to like 2 or 3, that'll be enough. It's demonstrating you understand. There's no person thing in the form that you use, by the way. There is only there's only priority, goals, action, and review date. And on other case plans, these topics might change, but generally, I hope everyone's got a good understanding of why and how assessments, case plans are used. And thanks very much, Sonia, for your excellent information and questions. The information about using the contact details is really, really gold. Really gold. Carly, thank you for coming.
No worries.
You just talk too much.
Had
Have a lovely
weekend.
evening. Hey?
I've had a big weekend.
Fair
So
enough.
I've got to say this. I've got to say this because it's going to have to happen. For week 11 and 12, the Wednesday sessions, and don't worry, I think there's very little involvement for you to do very much. The Wednesday sessions are going to be moving to a Monday. I've got a conflict for the Wednesday evening sessions that we do.
Okay.
So I'm going to move that to a Monday. So it'll be a Sunday and a Monday session for the last 2 weeks. But actually, it's only going to be
Wednesday for now.
Sorry?
So stay on Wednesday for now.
So Wednesday this week, and then the week, which is week 10, and then week 11, which will be starting on the 15th. Week 11, or the 14th, I beg your pardon. Week 11, Monday the 14th, will be the next meeting at the same time that we usually have it, which is 7 o'clock.
Yep.
7 o'clock. It's case management 2 is 6:30. 7 o'clock, and we'll have them. And then the next meeting will be Sunday, the 20th, and Monday the 21st will be week 12. And there won't be a Sunday week 12.
Yeah.
Because it never happens. Nobody does week 12. Everyone will be, I'm over it now.
Yeah.
There's nothing, there's no output required. Any questions though, I will be available in an assessment to do a Zoom tutorial for anybody who wants one. I'll make myself available.
Thank you.
So our final one will be week 12 on the Monday, the 20th.
Okay.
Lovely. You have a great Sunday. Take care. Thanks very much for your time and coming. Thank you for all your hard work. See you next Wednesday.
Wednesday.
It's not
Possibly.